Story 1. It's hard to escape since it all directly affects my life, and ignoring it won't prepare me for any future problems. I started playing video games again. Escaping into another world helps. Story 2. Anytime I see anything about American politics, I skip to the next thing. The sad reality is that you can't go anywhere without people discussing American politics. It feels like a curse on the rest of the world. Not being an American, every feed, every news organization, and everywhere you go online is filled with Trump-related content. Imagine being online and seeing stories about Putin everywhere you go, what he has done, what he has said, and what his associates have done. It's absolutely exhausting. Social media is one of the worst offenders. Every third post on the main page is about Trump, what he did, or memes related to him and his supporters. It feels like a persistent infection you can't escape. Story 3. I really don't have a choice. I have to pay attention due to the work my organization does. However, when I get home from work, I play a game on my phone or read a book and disconnect from all social media before bed. It is incredibly stressful but necessary. Story 4. In 2016, I stopped all television viewing of news, especially political news. I can read what I want. I only turn on the television around election day to follow the results, and then it is off. I do not even watch local news anymore, and life is greatly improved. Story 5. Boondocks moment. Wait a minute. I'm not American. And carry on with my day. All jokes aside, I've basically quit all social media except for Reddit, which I don't consider social media since I have no relationships there, and YouTube. Less online engagement, more offline activities. I did participate in the meme and spent time outdoors. Story 6. It was pretty easy, but I'm not in the UK. It felt like when COVID-19 hit. For the first 6 to 8 weeks, it took over my life. I didn't really realize it at the time, but I'd wake up with the news on the TV, then on the radio into work, followed by meetings about how we were going to deal with it, conducting risk assessments, buying masks and personal protective equipment. After work, it was the radio again, and then the TV all night. Of course, I reached a point of feeling totally overwhelmed, so I made an effort to find distractions. I think that's my best advice. Distract yourself from it, go offline, take a walk, watch a movie, enjoy a bath, prepare a big meal, and listen to a CD of your favorite artist while you do. Story 7. Get off Reddit and any social media. Reddit is infested with United States politics. There's literally no way to use it without stumbling upon something related to United States politics every fifth post. Facebook is filled with politics from my own country, which unfortunately has started exhibiting similar levels of ignorance and fanaticism as United States politics. I have deleted Twitter and Instagram, and I never use TikTok and never will. I rarely use Facebook nowadays and haven't posted in years. I just wish I could quit Reddit as well. But despite the fact that it can still be quite interesting, I have become afraid of falling behind on the news and that something terrible will happen without me finding out about it, so I keep using it and couldn't even bring myself to unsubscribe from the groups that feature too much politics. Story 8. Get off Reddit since many of the posts are political. Also, just go take a walk. You will feel much better. Story 9. The same way you unplug from the news. Turn it off, go outside, and get involved in hobbies. Reading and gaming are my main activities. Story 10. Balancing it with good news and positive viewpoints, such as those found on Uplifting News and Optimists Unite, while also redirecting my attention to other activities. I have recently started reading through a list of 100 books to read before you die. Story 11. For the past few months, when I needed to tune out current events, I focused on planning our Disney trip. However, we just returned from that on Saturday, and now I'm not so sure. Story 12. Chess has become a great way for me to unplug because being good at it requires a significant amount of attention, and your brain will not focus on anything else in the middle of a game. Story 13. I avoid the news like the plague. I stay off news sites and social media. The pandemic overwhelmed me. I was hyper-focused on current events, and I cannot go through that again. My husband and I watch the national news at 6:30 p.m., and that's it. If something significant occurs, my mom will call me to discuss it. I binge-watch shows on streaming platforms, read, and play with my dog. Story 14. About 3 paychecks from now, I will finally fully utilize my Second Amendment right. I have always borrowed equipment when I went into the fields or shooting ranges. This will help take my mind off of it. Story 15. Ignore it. It's like those morning or afternoon shows. Obviously, there are going to be events occurring given the scale of people and situations that could happen. That doesn't mean I need to pay attention or care about it at all if I choose not to. Story 16. I read a few articles and do not pay attention to commentators who are trying to elicit an emotional response from me. Then I continue with my day. Story 17. A few things. Read non-political books. I am currently working through Dune and rereading The Lord of the Rings. Watch non-political content on YouTube. For example, I recommend the channel Villain Support. You will thank me later. Also, the Thomas the Tank Engine section of YouTube is very good and relaxing. Listen to music and non-political podcasts. I have a lot of theology and history podcasts in my collection. If you want recommendations, just let me know. Story 18. Watch comedies or old movies. Reread favorite books. Take walks on the beach or by the river. Visit the library and a museum or explore the nature trail. Take a train to Boston for the day. Cook, talk with my husband and kids, garden, and attend trivia events. Craft, sew, paint or ride my bike. Enjoy chocolate and drinks. Story 19. As a European teacher of sociology and politics, I understand the pain and stress caused by the current political situation. I have a great deal of empathy for what you are experiencing as a nation. However, this is not the time to disengage. This is a time when anger is rational, but it needs to be channeled into constructive actions. This is the time to be vigilant and make difficult personal sacrifices to fight back. You are in the midst of a hostile takeover, with the risk of losing your freedoms and democracy. They are targeting marginalized groups first, but this is not because they genuinely care about these groups, such as immigrants, the LGBTQ+ community, the elderly, the poor, and the sick. It is intended to erode everyone's rights and to expand and concentrate power in the presidency. Therefore, fight for the vulnerable groups. Their cause is now inherently universal. Attend town hall meetings. Pressure your representatives and politicians, both at the local and national levels. Protest. Spread information. Organize. Use civil disobedience. Escalate the effort. Do not withdraw and relax. Discover how you can help save your country. Story 20. I don't watch television. I mute keywords so they never appear in my feed, or I indicate that I'm not interested. For my mental well-being, I find something else to occupy my mind. Story 21. There's a lot of media coverage, but it is selective. What's happening in the United States, of course, is significant. Other events, such as those in Gaza, are also important. On a smaller scale, in Britain, the Labour government, nominally on the left, is cutting support for the elderly and disabled instead of taxing the wealthy. This is pushing up support for the Reform Party, a sort of sub-MAGA populism. For anyone observing, the trajectory looks concerning. So what do? I try to reduce my reading. However, I have the challenge that I am, by profession, a historian, and I have studied and taught 20th century authoritarianism. So it's hard to ignore. I have read a lot of unpleasant material about the past. I enjoy reading books, especially classic literature. I appreciate stories by O. Henry, some 19th century fiction, and works by Graham Greene. I also like humorous books and have my favorites. I watch DVDs of films and television shows, particularly classics. For example, the original Mission Impossible and Airplane are favorites of mine, as well as science fiction, especially the less serious ones. Independence Day is enjoyable if you just go with it. I like Millennium from 1989, even though most people do not. I enjoy YouTube content as well, including old Saturday Night Live skits. Although I am not American, I can appreciate a lot of it, such as the Land Shark and the Delicious Dish segments on National Public Radio, particularly the ones that focus on the humor in mundane topics. Story 22. Turn off the news. I deleted all social media except Reddit, and I removed Reddit from my phones. To truly tune out, I avoid checking Reddit, or if I do, I only use my subscribed subreddits. I need a day or two off every now and then. Story 23. It's easy to unplug. Just turn off any feeds, stay away from social media, and stop watching the news. That is simply an act of willpower and a decision to avoid something that is both appealing and harmful. There's also a middle ground, which is trickier and requires some thought. Everyone should have a red line in a deteriorating situation, along with a plan of action when that line is crossed. Early preparations may be needed as part of this plan. The key phrase is, when the line is crossed. It is not about heading in the direction of the line or being on a slippery slope toward it. Instead, it is about when the line is crossed. This requires 3 mental actions. 1. Deciding what the red line is. 2. Preparing a plan even if it is never needed. And 3. Choosing not to worry until the line is actually crossed. I have made my own personal decisions in this regard, which has greatly helped in dismissing much of the surrounding noise. Story 24. I set my phone down as soon as I walk in the door. I'm getting outside now that the weather is nice. I am playing video games with everyone muted. Story 25. I have been hiding in my little romance fantasy books since January, and I won't be stopping anytime soon. I am still paying attention to everything, but these books provide me with an escape when I need it. Story 26. I was a political action committee chair for my specialty. This position involved interactions with lawmakers at the state and local levels. What I learned from my time with federal lawmakers is that their political affiliation does not matter. None of them genuinely care about their constituents. Most are very charismatic and skilled at pretending to care and saying the right things. They enjoy appearing on various media platforms to gain exposure and whip their respective sides into a frenzy, but they do this with no intent to make meaningful changes. Their goal is to convince us that they matter in order to secure votes and remain in power. Consequently, I stopped caring altogether once I saw behind the curtain. In summary, politicians do not care about you, and it's better to ignore them, as they cannot or will not implement changes that truly impact your daily life. Story 27. I swim regularly, finding peace whenever I can. I enjoy calm games like Stardew Valley. I turn off distractions, play quiet music, and read a fiction book, preferably wrapped in a blanket and near someone I love. I intentionally research topics that are mostly unrelated, like the unclear classification of jellyfish and mushrooms as plants or animals. I also organize my house thoroughly, which works for me, and take walks outside. Story 28. I garden, cut my grass, do 3D printing, and watch Simon Whistler videos. Sadly, politics is a constant topic due to the controversial actions of Trump, which attract significant media attention. It creates a self-perpetuating cycle. Story 29. I certainly do not come to Reddit for that purpose. I sit outside under the pecan trees and watch the fireflies during this time of year. Story 30. I make time every day to read news sources because my job is somewhat dependent on federal funding, and my friends and I are in danger, so I want to stay informed. When I need to decompress, I read, mostly romance with magical elements. I found some great books lately featuring epic battles against authoritarian regimes where the heroes win and have romantic encounters. It's uplifting, you know? Story 31. I play with my dog or focus intensely on my creative hobbies, such as writing and drawing. If I can enter a flow state while writing or drawing, I can easily lose track of time for several hours. Honestly, I'm pretty sure my dog and my hobbies are the only things keeping me sane right now. Story 32. I play games, splitting my free time between Dragon Age Veilguard and the new Oblivion Remastered. I also try to limit my news consumption to a couple of hours a day. Otherwise, I lose my will to live. Story 33. Practice my musical instruments, watch only streaming content on the television, and play word games. Story 34. Unplugging and decompressing is precisely what led us into this situation. It is unclear how continuing with this mindset is beneficial. The issues are complex and challenging, but it is unwise to allow others to determine your fate. Story 35. I certainly do not hang out on Reddit. This is one of the worst places on the internet for increasing your political stress. Story 36. I pretend to be a horse so my 2-year-old daughter can sit on my back and ride around the living room. Story 37. Go into the woods for a few hours. Search for bird species I haven't seen yet and look for interesting crystals. Story 38. I'm not someone who is particularly helpful online, so I try to do what I can to help in real life. This includes making donations, helping someone directly, or attending an event or protest. I believe sharing information is important, and while you can assist people online, I find it much more rewarding to do so in person when possible. It is more manageable to talk to another human being about it rather than just interacting with their profile. Story 39. Get your news from late-night comedy shows instead of traditional news sources. They are less repetitive, and the humor makes the information easier to digest. Story 40. Remember the old Buster Keaton film, perhaps more than one, in which he tries to run in 4 different directions at once? Or the science fiction movie where, no matter how far you run or try to hide, your nemesis always materializes in front of you? Where, except in some altered state of consciousness, can you escape the ubiquitous presence of this most odious of all Sith Lords? This incredibly obnoxious, whimsical half-wit who cannot seem to find his way. Given the circumstances, don't you think he could? When did delay, deny, and defend replace the Constitution? What do you call someone who dismisses all authority except his own? Dictator? Tyrant? Useful fool? Criminal interloper? He checks all the boxes. It makes a certain part of my body that delicacy forbids mentioning ache. For the love of mercy, how long can we tolerate this lunacy? The world is asking. Story 41. We stopped watching the media circus in 2016. We do not watch Fox, CNN, MSNBC, CBS, or ABC. We do not read a newspaper either. We are not concerned about where to get our information. The only news we are interested in is local, within a 50-mile radius. Story 42. I light incense and play relaxing music. Then, I place a pillow over my head and scream the phrase, Mother F*** ******* for 30 uninterrupted minutes. Story 43. I leave Reddit because someone always turns a post about puppies into a discussion about how Trump is destroying America in the comments. Story 44. Last night, I took out the emergency Duncan Hines mix and baked a pan of brownies. The autism registry and cancellation of the LGBTQ suicide hotline funding left me rattled. Story 45. Get off the internet. We are all in some collective delusion fueled by selective perception of negative events. Sadly, people now also vote according to this delusion, turning it into a self-fulfilling prophecy. But by and large, our lives are still as normal as ever. Story 46. Close this app. Reddit has become a hive mind focused on one singular political agenda, and it is bleeding into every aspect of the website. I know it was bad before, but this is a new level of insufferable. Go read a book or pick up a hobby. I started learning Morse code a couple of weeks ago, and I'm actually getting surprisingly good at it. Engage in activities like that. The vast majority of Americans do not pay attention to politics. This website might make you believe that the world is falling apart, but in reality, life continues on despite the noise. Story 47. I don't look away because it could potentially mean death for people like me. As a history major, it's striking how much the current situation parallels the world of the 1920s and 1930s. The short-sightedness of those who say, hearing about tariffs, genocides, and people being brainwashed into a death cult is bothersome, is so petty that it makes you want to cry in despair or laugh hysterically. Story 48. Watch America's Test Kitchen. No politics, no competitions, just instructional cooking for delicious food. Story 49. I don't pay it any mind anymore. At this point, whatever happens, happens. There is nothing I can do about it, so it is what it is. As far as I'm concerned, I am affected regardless of who is in office. Story 50. I try to remain as detached as possible. I block as much of the news as I can to minimize my exposure. Meditation helps, as does adopting the mindset of not my circus, not my monkeys. Story 51. I create fiction in my mind to distract myself from the state of the world. It helps to weave parallels to the terrible events happening around us into the story, allowing those responsible to face consequences. Story 52. The last 2 hours before I go to bed, I stay off my phone and the internet. I turn on old television shows from a streaming service so that I don't have to watch commercials either. You have to unplug from the matrix every day, even if it's just a couple of hours. Story 53. For better or worse, I find it helps me to read more about it rather than avoid it. I started writing and publishing my thoughts a few months ago, and it has really helped me feel better about it. It has enabled me to move on when I can express many of my thoughts. When I submit a post, I can walk away and read a book, cook dinner, or play a video game. Story 54. Stay away from screens. No television, no phone. Keep your phone ringer on and keep it in the house like in the old days. If someone really needs you, they can reach you. Check your messages and respond in the evening. Story 55. I recognize there is nothing I can do about it. The right wing is guided by religion. There is nothing that can be done to stop them. They represent a version of radical extremism, and reason and rationality are now actively considered tools of wrongdoing. All I can do is sit here and hope they don't become the majority. It seems like that is happening since Trump has been elected. It's only going to get worse. Story 56. Ignore it all and just get on with your life. I will stay informed about general happenings but don't have time for the constant conflict between the opposing sides. Story 57. I took a break from listening to podcasts and listened to an audiobook while working. I found it enjoyable. Story 58. I'm Canadian, and I can't stop. The moment Biden took office, I never looked back. It was such a sigh of relief. Now I'm checking every 5 minutes to see if we are being invaded. Story 59. I volunteer in my local city food bank and farmers market. Start in your own backyard, even if it means attending a city council meeting. You may find that taking initiative in your own community can help you address issues that are within your control. Good luck. Story 60. Try to compartmentalize. Politics is unimportant but very significant as it will affect your life in some way. So pay attention to it. Either your work influences you, or you can take an hour to check the news and conduct some genuine research. After that, engage in other activities. Whether it's books, video games, the gym, or crafts, keep politics out of it. If you're watching content about video games, for example, disregard any unrelated opinions. Save it for a designated time for politics. Essentially, maintain a work-at-work and play-at-play mentality. Story 61. The only source of depressive political news I have is Reddit. When I want to decompress, I visit the American subreddit, criticize their leaders and president, and end up getting banned for a week or two from the site. Being limited to reading only local news is peaceful and relaxing. Story 62. Television shows, video games, and delicious food. It is challenging to avoid these distractions. We live in a chaotic time. I find it difficult to live in the United States at the moment. Story 63. When I scroll online and see anything remotely related to Donald Trump, I immediately switch to another story or topic. The same goes for television, radio, and printed media. Avoiding the Trump circus has been very beneficial for my well-being. Story 64. Really? This is kind of sad, to be honest. Get off the internet. Take a walk, read a book, have a DIY spa day, watch an old favorite show, color, draw, write, swim, run, hike, try different hobbies, meditate, exercise, and stretch. Don't read the newspaper. Go to the library, join a book club, and avoid the media. Get off the internet and stay off for 24 hours. The simple. Story 65. I watch television. I turn my phone over so I am not looking at the front, and then I get lost in whatever I am watching, even if it is something lighthearted like The Office. Story 66. I collect hobbies like their Pokemon, so I have a variety of ways to decompress. My usual ones are drawing, reading, gaming, composing, and crocheting. Story 67. Play multiplayer video games where most players do not discuss political issues. and where it is easy to block the few in-game trolls who try to do so. Watch some streamers on the platform who do not discuss real-life politics during their streams. Story 68. Do you have a group of friends? Do what my friends and I did. We all picked a topic we care about, and that's the only news we focus on. Every so often, we update each other. Story 69. We have powerful supercomputers in our pockets, driven by complex algorithms designed to capture our attention, which target our 200,000-year-old Paleolithic evolutionary biology that primarily reacts to fear and anger. For me, I concede defeat. I realize I am not godlike and not meant to possess an all-knowing awareness of the world's events. Unplugging or decompressing are pleasant concepts, but for me, it's about refocusing my attention on what I can truly control: my own life. Story 70. Ignore the news and media for a while. It is difficult because we are faced daily with high grocery costs, which serve as a constant reminder of how we have been affected by a system that is greedy, self-serving, and incompetent. Story 71. I would love to, but American politics is affecting my wife. She was a human rights lawyer funded by the United States Agency for International Development, but that funding was canceled. Then she got a job at an elite university, but that funding was also canceled, and she lost that job too. Now she is interviewing at environmental non-governmental organizations that are about to lose their funding due to an executive order revoking their status. Story 72. I search for TV programs and movies that feature karmic justice, giving me hope that some form of karmic justice will be applied to the Trump administration. Story 73. It's hard because it directly impacts my life or my neighbor's life. I understand the need to shield oneself from negativity. I empathize completely. However, I feel that the current events need to be observed and engaged with. There is a balancing act between being responsibly informed and avoiding doom scrolling or depressing oneself. Unfortunately, the things I do to escape are often influenced by current events or have themes that remind me of the news. My current Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I am the dungeon master for is absolutely an escape. I love it. It allows me to immerse myself in a fantasy world that still includes politics and a fascist antagonist. We sometimes make jokes or references during our sessions, but we try to keep those in check. As for music, when 99.9% of my taste is rooted in punk, followed by metal and emo, it's very difficult to distance myself from political themes. That's just the nature of it. Comedy. Many comedians use their platform and medium to inform the public and critique politics, as comedy should. Television. I don't really watch TV, but it often leads me to shows like The Daily Show, Veep, Gilmore Girls, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, Legal Eagle, or Pod Save America. Story 74. I don't pay attention to any of it. I don't vote and I don't care about politics. It's not my problem, and it's not my concern. Story 75. I was banned from Facebook and Instagram. My Twitter is focused on Arsenal and Chattanooga Football Club, while my TikTok features general soccer content and humorous videos. I have been working for years to concentrate more on local events, and it is much more rewarding. Story 76. I believe this is the most important issue facing the United States right now, and we all need to actively resist. People must wake up and prioritize this matter before it is too late. Story 77. I have been messaging my conservative friends late at night. If I lose sleep, they lose sleep. The funny thing is that they don't block me. I don't think they know how, and I don't care. Habeas corpus. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.